amygdala is responsible for your emotional memory. It increases your cortisol levels. For men, their stress hormones spike higher than women on any given day, no matter what is happening. Hello, family. How are you guys? Today is the first podcast, you guys. Thank you for showing up, and welcome to Just Conversations podcast. Y'all, today I have had, probably the last couple of days, I have had the worst earworms, right? And so just remembering so many songs from the 90s, I have no idea what that's about. Like, it's been on replay in my brain. I don't know where the songs are coming from, but I keep singing them and singing them and singing them. Anyway, have no idea what the connection is. But we're starting our podcast series on hurt people. Before I start talking to you about relationship skills and how you can better your relationships utilizing the relationship skills, I think it's proper for us to address the hurt and pain that people are in that keeps them from the successful, happy relationships that they want or desire or should have, right? We need to be able to process that hurt, that pain, and move past it. And a lot of us are stuck in it. So much so that it has changed the landscape of dating. The dating climate right now is ugly. It's really, really ugly. And people are not choosing to enter into it. You know, they're having transactions, of course, but people are no longer interested really in the drama that comes with relationships. They're no longer interested really in relationships. They want them, yes, but they can bypass the drama that comes with them because there's drama that comes with them for whatever the reason, right? And that doesn't make me happy. And God is not pleased with that, right? Like, God is passionate about relationships. It's one of the first human things that he did. He created man and woman to be in relationship. And so it's not okay for us to not intertwine, for us to not commune and unify and continue to build family, not having babies, but can build family. We're losing our community, guys. We're losing our community. Having babies with people is not community. So it's a problem. Now, we have several people in the relationship space helping people and giving advice and giving tips and tools. My feeling about that is tips and tools and tricks work, but for so long if you don't have a proper foundation. And people don't have relationship education foundation. So when you get the tips and tools and tricks, you don't know how to sustain them. It'll be some improvement, sure, but you don't know how to sustain them because you don't have a proper foundation. So we're going to give you a proper foundation here. But before we can get to that, we have to make room for a proper foundation by getting rid of some stuff that you no longer need, some things that no longer serve you, right? And you carrying around the hurt from however long it's been, whether it was a month ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, you carrying around hurt that interferes with you being able to have happy, healthy relationships is not okay. So for people who are choosing not to be in relationships, if you are a happy, healthy person and you choose not to be in a relationship, that is perfectly fine, because it is not the end all be all, right? If you want to be a single person and family is not on your agenda, I'm certainly not telling you that there's a problem with that. Not at all. That's between you and God to figure out what he wants you to do. What I am saying, though, is if you are single and you're single because, oh, I've been hurt and I can't be hurt again and I'm afraid to put myself back out there, or, you know, men are trash or women are trash, I'm just going to stay by myself and, you know, just have transactions, that's a problem. That mentality is a problem, right? That's what I'm saying. So for those people who really do desire to be in a relationship, but really just are over the antics and the drama that comes with the relationships and the games, those people, or not even that, you just feel like, you know what, I've tried this thing and I don't know what I'm doing. It must be me. And maybe it's not me, but I'm doing something. There's something that's going on that's not going on right because I'm not successful in this thing. So for those people, there's a foundation that you need. There's a foundation, there's a mentality, there's a skill set that you need. And we're going to get there. But like I said, before we can get there, we have to address this hurt that people are going through. So I have a system to get you from hurt to health, or to health from hurt, however you want to say it. And it's just a basic transformational system. You could utilize it for anything that you want to go from where you are to where you want to be. There are 7 steps to it, and each of the steps contain their own steps. So it's not complicated, but it is a process. And once you make your way through the process, you'll still have to continue some things in order to continue the process, to keep the process going. So it's not in any way, shape, or form an overnight thing, but it is successful if you're open to it and you're willing to go through the process. So before we get there, and that's what our series is going to consist of, those 7 steps. But before we do, we have to address this hurt and pain that you're going to continue to encounter throughout the rest of your life at some point or another. As long as you have relationships, you are susceptible to experiencing pain at the hands of somebody who you've allowed in. So what we have to learn is how to navigate that, because we're not going to be pain-free forever. You have seasons where everything has been great, but inevitably something happens because you're still growing, you're still learning, you're still experiencing. Inevitably something happens that causes you some hurt or some pain, and you have to learn how to navigate that, how to process those emotions, and how to not let them interfere with your forward growth, your forward movement, your future relationships, things like that. So that being said, the first thing, the seat, the helm of our emotional discomfort, stress, fatigue, emotional memory, the amygdala. A little bit of science for you. And so the amygdala is a little almond-shaped, maybe a walnut shaped. It's about the size of an almond, maybe a walnut. This little thing rains havoc if you have not trained it. If you haven't trained it, it rains havoc. So the amygdala is responsible for your emotional memory. It's responsible for your flight or fight response. It's responsible for your detectors of stress, threats. It's responsible for your high alert. So anything that's going to cause you to have to protect yourself, your amygdala is on high alert for. And what it does is it gives you all of the hormones that you need to go into action, whatever that action is going to be. And so you need the amygdala because it is the thing that indicates and signals to the rest of your body from your brain that we need to do something because danger is here, right? There's some external stimulus that's harming us or trying to harm us, and we have to decide what we're going to do about it. So either we're going to run, and we need to do that right now, or we're going to fight, and we need to do that. We need to do that right now, right? So that is the amygdala's job, to let you know when we're in danger, we're in trouble, something is happening, we're getting overwhelmed, we're being overloaded with stress from something, right? So the amygdala, when it's checked and it functions properly, that is what it does. So we all need the amygdala. You love the amygdala. The problem is a lot of us in relationships have overactive amygdala. So when your amygdala is overactive, it looks like people that say, calm down, you're doing too much. You're overreacting. You're looking for something to happen. You're trying to find something where there's nothing, right? And you, whoever the person is that has the overactive amygdala, really is inside their brains feeling like there's a threat in some way. And we have to protect ourselves. We have to defend ourselves. So no matter how big or how small this issue is, or how invisible this issue is, this person in their brain really does see a threat in this situation. They see a threat to their mental state, their peace, their emotional vulnerability, whatever it is inside of them, that there's a threat to it. So they have to defend themselves. And it typically is in everyday stress. Typically is in emotional situations. And it doesn't have to be a thing. It can be the thought of the thing, because the amygdala is overreacting. What causes an overreactive amygdala? Well, you have been in several emotionally charged situations where nobody has come to calm it down. Nobody has come to regulate it. Nobody has come to make sense of it. Nobody has come to say, this is inappropriate and it goes here for you to make the connection. This is inappropriate and it goes there for you to make the connection, right? There's been nobody to make sense of these very high emotionally charged situations. So you have had to make sense of them the best way that you know how. And a lot of the times when we're hurt and when we're in pain, we don't have good logical sense, right? Because hurt and or pain tend to hijack healthy perspective. So you can't figure it out for yourself in real time. And the amygdala works in real time. So if there's nobody there to make sense of the situation while you're in it, after the fact, chances are, if it hasn't happened to you before and you have to make the connection for yourself, you're probably going to misconnect the things. That's just what happens. So you have a situation, it got a little out of control. Nobody made sense of the situation. You had to go within yourself and try to reconcile it to yourself. You made the connections that you made. And we get to see on the next emotional instance how well you did. And then we find out, because you overreact, you didn't do so well in making that connection. So, is that your fault? Could be, could be not. Is it your parents' fault? Could be not. We don't know what the situation was. I'm telling you how it happens, though. So, people that have overreactive amygdala usually come from several emotionally charged situations that nobody made sense of in an appropriate or healthy manner. Everyday stuff, right? One of the things that you could do is you can ask your significant other or your children how they know if you're frustrated or if you're upset, how they know. And they'll tell you. And then you can ask them if you take it out on them, if they feel like when you're frustrated or you're upset, you take it out on them. Small stuff, right? Small stuff. Because these people live with you. And so these are going to be the people that know, in case you missed it. Because sometimes we have blind spots. But this amygdala situation gets in the way of you having healthy relationships. Because if you are frustrated and angry, no matter how you got there, right? So this is where we're moving into hurt people. No matter how you got to your frustration and your anger, somebody caused it. Yes, let's just go ahead and say that. Well, Shay, you don't know what they did. We'll go ahead and say it. Somebody caused it, right? Right. You still have a decision to make. Always have a decision to make. And so you can decide that you're going to respond, or you can decide that you're going to react. And if your amygdala has not been trained, meaning you've had emotional situations, emotionally charged situations, and somebody has set you down to say, hey, listen, that is not okay. That is this. You felt like this, or you displayed this behavior. That is this, and that is inappropriate for this. If nobody has been able to sit you down and help you to categorize your emotions properly, chances are you're going to miss a few. And if you happen to have those emotionally charged situations often, you're going to miss quite a few. So you end up being the person that goes from 0 to 1,000 in 2 seconds. Because you haven't had emotional conversations about what your emotion is and what's proper or what's appropriate and what's not appropriate in whatever you're doing. You haven't had that conversation. And I'm not saying that people haven't said, stop, sit down, calm down, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying nobody has said to you, you are feeling this and this, or you're acting this way. Are you feeling this? You're acting like you're crazy, right? You're acting like you're crazy. Do you feel crazy? Well, if you feel crazy, why do you feel crazy? What happened? And then we get a conversation. No. So that's not the behavior for that. This is the behavior for that. I'm not expecting you to have had these conversations. Not at all. Now, it gets this kind of complex because when you were little, you were allowed, more than likely, to wild out, to have temper tantrums, to have fallouts, right? And if nobody cut that short for you, by the time you became a teenager, you were a little bit harder to deal with. So people kind of just let you go because nobody wanted to deal with the fury that came with you. Nobody wanted to deal with the temper that you had. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that that's your parents' fault. It's your village's fault, because you shouldn't be past out the terrible twos. Let's start with that. The terrible twos. And everybody knows it, and it's common. And people feel like, children are too young, and maybe they're not smart enough for you to teach them discipline and teach them what's appropriate. No such thing. Right? Now, this child is going to absolutely work you, because it is such a thing that a child has a rebellious spirit. That is such a thing. But what I'm saying to you is the war with that child is a war with that child. And either you're going to win or he or she is going to win. And most of the time, the child wins because they're incessant in it. And you have stuff to do, right? You don't have time to fight with this child all day long, so you give in and you let them have their way. Whatever that is. And what I'm saying is that plants the seed in that child's brain to know that if I just keep at it long enough, I just have to one up you. Because eventually you're going to tap out. That's what we teach them. So the children that have these rebellious spirits at the terrible 2 stage, if you want to counteract that, you do have to war with them. You do. But that's the perfect time to war with them because they're tiny humans. Tiny humans. And so it's the consistency of, no, that's not okay. Time out. No, that's not okay. If you whip the children, you're whipping them. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to whip the children every time they do something, because eventually that wears off too, right? Time out really does work. I'm here to tell you. And I've been black my whole life. And I've been whipped. I didn't get whippings often. But I have gotten my fair share of them, is my point. But you can't over whip a child because they get used to it. And then what do you have left? Nothing. Timeout works. But timeout works if you work it the right way. You have to go to war with this little 2-year-old that you have, because that rebellious spirit turns into a monster. And then that person becomes the adult that everybody was like, oh, don't you know how she get when she da da da? You know how he get when he da. It's your fault that that baby has grown into the monster that they have grown into. It's y'all's fault. It's not that baby's fault. I mean, grown up now, but we're still healing this little kid that y'all let run wild and be reckless. That's the only people that come to see me, right? Adults that have broken children inside them. So these adults, grown adults, are running around still behaving like children emotionally, because that has been stunted somewhere. It's been oppressed or suppressed somewhere, or it's been allowed to run rampant somewhere. So now we have to deal with the adult version of it, as opposed to going to war with this little 2-year-old, this tiny human person. But that's where it's supposed to happen, right there. Right when they get at the age where they can start moving about and touching things and knocking things over and testing your gangster, right there. That's where it's supposed to happen. And the method and the motto is supposed to be, it's going to be you, it's going to be them. It's not supposed to be you. It's not supposed to be. We have far too many adults that are running around like children emotionally, because the ball has been dropped on being able to tame that rebellious spirit that they had, or the ball has been dropped on the parent not protecting this child emotionally like they were supposed to. One of the two things have happened, and we're talking about all things being equal, right? And not people that have been born with any traumatic situations. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who were born to regular parents. They didn't have any health complications. The baby didn't have any health complications either. We're talking about regular old folk who, for all intents and purposes, could raise a regular old child. But that didn't happen for all of the reasons, right? And they were raised by some parents too, who probably dropped the ball on them. Absolutely can't happen. But here we are now with this adult who does not know how to manage their emotions in a healthy way. What do you do with that person? Couple things. You can decide that you're going to tell them about this amygdala situation, and you're going to be patient with them and see if they're trying to change it, because some people just get stuck in their ways, right? And it just is what it is. Well, this is me. Take me or leave me. Okay. So you can talk to them about this amygdala situation. And because you now are getting some education to how powerful this thing is and what happens and what it can do when it's unchecked, you can have a conversation with them. You can play this podcast back for them, and you can start being a little bit more sensitive to the fact that you now know that this person's amygdala is out of whack. And you guys can work on it together. Absolutely a thing. The other choice that you have is you can leave this person where they are. You can absolutely do it. Because if they are not trying to figure out how to better themselves, you won't be able to help them. And they have to want to do it for themselves, right? Even if they make strides starting out trying to do it for you, they still have to want to do it for themselves in order for there to be a true transformation. What you cannot do, you cannot decide that you're going to stay with this person if you feel like, oh, that must be what's wrong with so-and-so. Their amygdala is out of check, right? And because you know a little something about their history, you're thinking, yeah, probably. Okay, you cannot stay with this person and be unwilling to help them and be unwilling to be more sensitive to it. You cannot do that. You would be doing that person a disservice as a person that cares about them. You would be doing them a disservice. You cannot do that. So you need to decide what position you're going to take. How much responsibility do you have for and to this person, whomever it is you're thinking about? Because for every relationship, relationships are about service, right? The amount of relationships you have and the fruitfulness of them, the richness of them, the wealth of them has everything to do with your willingness and your ability to be able to serve those relationships, and vice versa. And so if that's not a place that you're in with this person, to be able and to be willing to serve them, if this is the person that you thought about when you heard me run down what the amygdala is and what it does. If you're not in a position that you're willing or able to serve this person, to help them to get better, this is the person that you need to walk away from, because you're not helping them by staying with them. You are one of the triggers of their amygdala. If this is who you thought about, you've seen it happen. More than likely, it's happened with you. So you're one of their triggers. Something that you do, something that you say makes this person's amygdala overreact. So you're not doing them any favors by staying with them. As much as you may feel like, well, I love them and I don't want to leave them. That may be so. I'm not saying that you're wrong for that, because that's going to be hurtful, and it's going to be hurtful to them, right? Because if you care about me so much, how could you leave me? Like, what is the reason that you would be leaving me? Just because I overreact a little bit? Child, you overreact a lot of bit. Let me just tell you. And it's not the overreacting, it's what the overreacting is about, right? Anyway, now let me say this, and I'm going to try to get out of here. Let me say this. For those of you that are listening and are thinking that this is a woman problem, let me just give you a little bit of perspective. So where the amygdala is concerned, of course, all humans have the amygdala. Now, in men, the amygdala has, when the amygdala is stressed, when the amygdala is triggered, it increases your cortisol levels, right? The cortisol are your stress hormones. Men and women both have cortisol. We both have stress hormones. For men, their stress hormones spike higher than women on any given day, no matter what is happening. When a man is stressed, his stress levels spike higher than when a woman is stressed. When a woman is stressed, her stress levels spike longer than a man's would. Right? Okay. So what does that look like? For men, men's stress levels are performance based. So you talk about stress at the job. They're not making the numbers or hitting the quota and making the money that they want to make. You talk about competitiveness, right? You see a lot of roughhousing and fighting in sports and things of that nature, because that is one of those areas where we like men to be wild and obnoxious in sports for whatever the reason. So they let society, that's one of the things that society lets men have. We don't mind you being obnoxious, playing sports and knocking each other down. That's good entertainment for us, right? But that is the only place that men are allowed to just be free to express whatever emotion they have. Whatever the emotion is, take it out by knocking his face off. Take it out by blowing his shoulder out. Take it out by knocking his block off, right? Or if it's financial, how much money can we make? How many companies can we destroy? How many companies can we take over? How many companies can we defeat? So, or it's a manhood challenge, right? Who's bigger? Who's taller? Who's stronger? So men have this performance stress. And when they're stressed, it's through the roof. Their testosterone doesn't help that. It helps it go through the roof. And then it comes down and they can forget about it the next day. In trying to solve that or trying to help them with that, nothing helps them with that except the performance, because that's what triggers it. So you as the woman, you as his woman, his wife, his girlfriend, whatever, that's a universal thing. That cortisol stress in men, that's a universal thing. However, calming them down is more personal. That's a more personalized thing. You may have a guy that you can fix him his favorite meal, and that'll make life better. You may have a guy that you have to give him sex the way that he likes it, and that'll make him feel better. You may have a guy where you going out and making a couple of dollars is the only thing that's going to make him feel better, right? So that depends on the shrinking of the amygdala once it's stressed in your guy. That's a little bit more individual. You have to kind of know your guy for that. But whatever it is, you have to know him. Ask him what he wants of you. Don't try to be his everything. Don't try to give him emotional support and encouragement if that's not who he is. That works for you. Doesn't work for him necessarily. If that's who he is, great. I'm not saying dog him out. I'm saying don't think because that's what you would want that that's what he would want. You need to find out from him when he's stressed, what does he want you to do? Right? And that doesn't look like if his favorite team has lost and he is heartless mad. That doesn't look like you saying, I don't understand why you're upset. It's just a game. It doesn't look that way. Right? And so this should help us ladies be a little bit more sensitive to, their favorite team has lost, or they didn't make however much money, or they didn't get the account, or, they're hollering to the top of their lungs with somebody else about a sports team, or they want to watch sports all day and they're listening to the commentators go back and forth and they're right in the conversation too. Highly upset. And you are sitting on the side thinking, what in the world? I'm married to a child, or I'm with a child. Like, this is what we're doing, and you're going to do this all day long? And so I need you to understand that men have an inherent, innate stress level that's attached to performance and domination and achievement. It's attached to it. You may think it's the dumbest thing in the world, but it's in them. So I need you to be a little bit more cognizant and a little bit more sensitive to that fact, right? That's going to make them go through the roof. When it's over, and they'll be on to the next thing. Find out from your guy what he needs you to do or who he needs you to be in that moment of stress. Conversely, men, for women, now let me say this. Women's cortisol levels, you guys just have testosterone to deal with. Women's cortisol levels are spiked by their menstrual cycles. They're spiked by pregnancy. They're spiked by progesterone. They're spiked by estrogen. They're spiked by social situations. They're spiked by emotional stress. Everything, seemingly, right? Seemingly everything. And it does not help that it lasts longer. So, when your girl is stressed, it could be stress from several different things. What she does not need from you is for you to say, you upset about that? That don't make no sense. Because you, who is he, can fuss at the television all day about a game that is not paying you $1. So let's just be respectful and let's be considerate and understand that we're built different, right? We have the same things, but we're built different. So I need you to be a little bit more cognizant and a little bit more sensitive to all of these things that we did not ask for as women that can absolutely spike our cortisol levels. And what women want oftentimes is just emotional support. To know that you're not trying to fix it unless she asks you to. So just like I told her about you, don't go in thinking that you're going to do what you want somebody to do for you. Sex may not be the thing that she wants right now, because that's the thing that you might want when you're stressed. That doesn't necessarily work that way for her, right? Just like for men, these cortisol levels are universal for women, but shrinking her amygdala might be a little bit more personal. So you need to know your girl and find out from her who she wants you to be when she's stressed in all these different ways. Again, we didn't ask for this, guys. We didn't ask for any of it, but we have it. And so if you desire to be with a woman, this is a part of that maintenance. If you want to keep a woman, you have to keep her. Women, if you want to keep a man, you have to keep him. And all the things that come with him, short of it just depressing you, right? Because we're not trying to be with anybody that's not going to contribute to our happiness. And so if you're with somebody and the cost of them is more than you can pay, you need to return to sender. Don't go bankrupt for this person. Don't do that. Because you're not doing either of you a favor. So if you can't make this person better, just leave them where they are and let them figure out them and you go and figure out you. That's it. I'm not saying that you can't struggle together, but in the struggle, is there progress is the thing, right? If we're struggling in the same place for year 1, year 2, year 3, there's no progress, we're not helping each other. So what are we going to do? We're going to just continue to do this because we love each other? Well, what sense does that make? And so these are not healthy behaviors, is what I'm saying. But we do it. We do it religiously because we'd rather be unhealthy with this person than try to find out what healthiness looks like by ourselves. And then y'all the same people that want to complain that people shouldn't be in relationships and people shouldn't get married and I'm not doing it and ... Like relationships are the problem, or like marriages are the problem. I told y'all the other day, no, relationships and marriages are just fine. They're a reflection of the people that are in them. And so I absolutely dare you to decide that you're going to learn how to be a good relationship partner. I dare you to do it. Because you're not ready for how that's going to change the landscape of relationships in your life. You're not ready for that. And so people want to be financially stable and free. And people want to be healthy, right? You want to go out and be able to do what you want to do and live how you want to live and have a good life. But you want to do that on your own terms, right? You don't want to eat healthy. You want to be able to drink all day and go to work and not exercise and not move and feel like you're going to do this the rest of your life because it's fun. Well, life has checks and balances. That's not how that works. So in order to get some things, you have to pay for some things. In this relationship that you want, no matter where it is, if it's a romantic one, one with your family, one with your friends, one with your coworkers, no matter where it is, it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something. Your job is to make sure that it's worth the cost. That's the only job you have, to make sure that it's worth the cost, because it's going to cost you something. It's not going to be free. You're going to have to give up something that you used to be able to do, that you used to like being able to do, because now you want this thing. That's how that goes. So guys, have some patience and have some understanding with your girl, because she has a lot of external and internal stressors. Don't dismiss those, because if you do, that's the fastest way for you to ease your way out of that sweet spot with her. And now you're begging for sex and you're begging for other treats that you like. Because you're not willing to be empathetic and understanding and supportive to all that is happening with her. Maybe you are willing and you just don't know. And she doesn't know either. No worries. So take this amygdala, play this a couple times, right? That thing has an origin. It being overreactive has an origin. Find out what your person's story is. Find out what they have gone through. It may be too late for you to walk away. It may be too late for you to walk away from them. And if you feel like that's the case, that's fine. But you need to know that you have some work to do with this person because they've gone through some things, and you have to have enough patience with them to help them to make some healthier connections with their emotions. You also cannot be the person that continues to trigger them. So it's going to be some sacrifice on your part because it's going to annoy the living daylights out of you until your person gets it. And we don't know how long that's going to take. We don't know how long it's going to take, but it takes consistency. You're going to have to be consistent with them, and they're going to have to be consistent in their effort, right? Research says that it takes about 18 months to change a behavior trait. And with that, the person who's watching or observing, you have to be consistently observant and encouraging. Consistently observing and encouraging this person so they can't go through it by themselves. Got a decision to make here with this amygdala situation. But I tell you what, if this amygdala situation does not get better, your relationship will always only be able to get but so good. Always. It is a guarantee. I promise you, if your person does not learn how to regulate their own emotions, I don't care how great of a person they are. I don't care how well y'all get along. I don't care how good the sex is. Your relationship is probably already at its max. It's not going to get any better if this amygdala does not get some training. And what does that look like? That looks like several more emotionally charged situations where you, as the person who has the regulated amygdala, where you are patient and consistent with your person and helping them walk through their irregulation or unregulation. Is that a word? Do you know what I'm saying? So that's what that looks like. I don't know what else to tell you. Now, if the person that you're with and wherever your relationship is right now, if you feel like you can do that the rest of your life, cool. Nothing else to talk about. Y'all continue to have your ups and downs. Y'all have learned what each other's ups and downs and goods and bads are, and y'all all right with it. That's fine. For people who want better, for people who want more, for people who feel like that, if we can just get it together, for those people, if you thought about your person when I started talking about this amygdala, more than likely they qualify or you qualify. So there's some things that need to be done here. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things you can do. Well, Shay, what can I do? If I've noticed that it's me or if I notice that it's my person, what can I do? I'll give you some tips, just a few. So a couple of quick little things that you can do. One that I like to do is diaphragmatic breathing. Now, people that meditate and people that do mindfulness will say it's a mindfulness practice or it's a meditation practice. Fine. But all it is, when your amygdala is overly stimulated, it's overly stimulated by what you see or what you're hearing, right? Or the environment that you're in. So the first thing is to get yourself out of that environment if you can, whether it be going just to the bathroom for a second, going to your car, whether it's just you going into a room and closing the door. You have to be able to get yourself into a presence, a centering, and find your peace. You have to be able to chase it down somewhere. So you get somewhere by yourself. You close your eyes and you breathe in as deeply as you can breathe in. You're trying to suck your navel to your spine, right? Eyes closed, shoulders back, you're relaxed. You breathe in as deeply as you can. And what I want you to be doing while you're breathing in, either you're thinking about all the things that you're grateful for, or you're asking for peace. right? Calm down. God help me if God is what you do. Um, you need to find your peace. You talk to yourself. You, we need to find our peace. We're getting out of hand. This is overwhelming. We need to calm down. We need to relax. This is not that big of a deal. Blah, blah, blah. So that is the inhale. And then you blow out all of the feeling that you have. And you're trying to extend your navel as far out as you can extend it. And you do that 5, maybe 7, maybe 10 breaths, depending on what's happening. And when you pick your number, right? So if you decide it's 5, it's 5. If it's 10, it's 10. When you're done, you have a job. And your job is, if you have to go back into the environment that you just left, if you have to go back into it, your job is to not let whomever or whatever bring you back to the place that you just left from. I don't know who you have to tune out. I don't know who you have to walk away from. I don't know who you have to ignore. But your job is to not let that environment, whatever that stimulus was, get you back to where you just came from. Because what it means is the people and places and things outside of you have more control over you than you do. That is what that means. And I need you not to let that to continue to be the case. Especially if you're grown. Because these people are not paying your bills. Right? You're getting up, you're going to work, you are managing your own house, managing your own life. I wish you would let more people than you, let anybody other than you have more control over you than you do. We are going to stop that this day. I don't care how many times you have to go walk away and go breathe. You best get to breathing. Because this cannot be so. It cannot be so that you're going to continue to allow people, places, and things to dictate your state of emotion. No, ma'am, no, sir. Okay, that's that one. I'm moving. So number 2, another thing that you can do, the gratitude. People do gratitude journals. I don't journal. I'm not really a journaler. But I get before I lie myself down, I will think about what I've been grateful for, what has happened to me that day, what has not happened to me that day, right? Because as you get older, you get more hindsight, right? When you're younger, you have sight. When you get older, you have hindsight because you've had some experience. So you get to be able to be thankful for things that did not happen to you, the things that God protected you from. You get to be grateful for those things. And so I can say my grateful statements before I go to bed and just thanking God for all that he has done and all that he has protected me from that I didn't even know that he was doing. And what that does for me is it releases a feeling on the inside. And I think it's the same feeling when I go to church. It's the same feeling when I read my Bible and the verse that I read is on point. It's the same feeling. And so for me, I think that's the happiness hormone. So that's the serotonin for me because it happens on the inside of you, right? Dopamine usually happens on outside of you. It's pleasure, but it's pleasure on the outside. You can't really get dopamine on the inside of you. Something has to happen on the outside that makes you like, okay. But serotonin happens on the inside. So your gratitude, and if you have to write that down, that's fine. Write down the things that you're grateful for. I don't know that you know that all that well as a young person. I don't know if you've had enough life yet to really be grateful, to really understand the weight of being grateful. But if it's a practice that you can put into practice as a young person, by all means, do so. Another one. Now, I have one that I've added to the course, and it's like journaling, but there's an addition to it. This is when you write down all your feelings, and this is probably what I did not like about journaling, so I tweaked it a bit. But some people like journaling, and if that's all that you can do to release the feelings, write it down. But once you write it down, make a plan of action. What are you going to do about these feelings. So you're with your person and they are overreacting like they do, and you feel some sort of way about it. You can encourage them to write down how they feel, all the feelings, right? None of them are wrong. And you can write down how you feel. But the reason why they're writing down how they feel and you're writing down how you feel is because these feelings are yours. They're for you to do something about. So everything that you write down, write a plan of action, not a plan, but write a step or 2 or 3 as to what you're going to do about these feelings that you have. Because they're not serving you bottled up inside of you, and they're not serving you or the other person with you lashing them out and throwing them at them. So how are you going to reconcile all that you're feeling to yourself? What are we doing? Right? So, and this is accountability and responsibility, because this person has to be responsible for their own feelings, and they have to be responsible for whatever the action that they display makes you feel, and vice versa. So let's start with, if you don't have a plan, or if you don't have any action steps for what you're going to do about how you feel, you don't need to be telling me what I need to be doing. Does that not make sense? If you can't figure out how to manage you, how are you going to try to manage me? Just saying, that makes sense to me. So, and there's some other ones. And so if you guys want the full list, put in the chat or text box. I don't know what we have on the podcast, but put in there, send me the list. Also with that, we have some scripture, because I believe, as I tell y'all all the time, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so as such, we need to have something for both. We need to have improvement for both, because a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And so we can't have the human part of you super strong and then the spiritual being really weak and meager. We can't have that. Okay, so some scriptures that you can use, just a couple, in the same thing. If you want the list of the scriptures, let me know. Put it in the text of the chat or whatever it is, and I'll send it to you. So the first one is 2 Corinthians 10:5. And that is, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And what that means to me is that when I'm feeling like I want to blow a gasket, I'm probably not thinking, because as we said earlier, hurt and pain hijacks healthy perspective. So I'm probably not thinking sensibly. Probably not. But the thoughts that I am having, because I'm still having them, probably if you haven't blacked out yet, you're having thoughts. You're just not having good thoughts. So we want to just take a second and submit those thoughts to God. That's what we want to do. And what that looks like in real time is when people have told you just count to 10. Nobody tells you what you should be doing when you're counting to 10. But your count to 10 should be you trying to walk that amygdala back off the edge, whether it's yours or whether it's your person. You're trying to walk that thing back off the edge, right? Very, very similar to you doing your deep breathing. But in this one, this is a little different. This is, you're doing a touch with God. You're trying to connect with God. You're trying to get him on the main line, because somebody about to be in a whole lot of trouble. So you need to get to God quickly. Right? So this is not necessarily finding your peace and, I'm thankful for this and I'm thankful for that. No, you are pleading. God needs to come in a hurry, is what this is. Right? But you're willing and you're open to submit the thoughts that you have to him, so he can come and help you with how you're feeling, because somebody about to lose a child, an arm, a limb, a small foot. I don't know, but it's not going to go well. So you need help, is what you need. So this scripture is the one that you repeat over and over and over and over and over and over until it feels better. Might take you 5 times, might take you 10 times, might take you 20 times. until you feel better. Because you have to get your brain to think a different thought. You have to get it to, because you haven't had a transformation yet. And so until you have a transformation, we have to get your mind just distracted from where it is. And if we practice this enough time, sooner or later, you'll have planted enough seeds of the Word of God to have a transformation in your heart. And you'll have practiced enough scripture in your mind to have a renewing of your mind. So change is coming. Trust me when I tell you. It's coming. But you have to work at it. All right. So the next one, Galatians 5:22 and 23. Where we talk about here, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, kindness, gentleness, meekness, patience, long-suffering, self-control. Right? God has given his people of God, a command for character. He just listed it. It's called fruit of the Spirit. Those characteristics are the characteristics that God wants his people to have. Meaning, this self-control is an expectation. You don't get to run wild. You don't get to be reckless. Don't matter how you feel. You don't get to do it. Self-control. And it's not your job, if this is your person that we're talking about, it's not your job to continue to keep calming them down. You can give them a time clock. That's up to you. How long do you want to stay until you see some improvement? How long do you want to stay until they make this benchmark or until they make this milestone? How long do you want to stay? I'm not about to tell you, well, that's your person and that's the person that you chose and you got to ride or die with them. Let me tell you, some people playing for the wrong team. And it may be you, and you may have you one, because the devil has children just like God does. And the devil's children loves God's children. Love them. And so does the devil. Why? Because they're trying to flip them. There's going to be a war between God's people and the devil's people. There's going to be one. And so the devil is trying to get his army. He's trying to corral his army. And so his children are out sprinkled amongst the earth, doing what he does, going to and fro, seeking where they can kill, steal, destroy, and devour. We don't know if your person is Jesus's child or the devil's child. I don't know. Hopefully you know. But your person could be the devil's child. I'm not about to tell you, go down into the fiery gates with them. I'm not about to tell you that. I'm about to tell you, you can know them by their fruit. That's what I'm going to tell you. You know them by their fruit. And so if your person doesn't exercise this fruit of the Spirit, or if you don't, on a regular basis, this is not a, we do this on Sundays and Wednesdays, right? The Spirit of God is every day. You're not your mama and your daddy's child on Mondays and Thursdays. You're your mama and daddy's child every day. And so God is no different. There's a mandate for you to have this kind of a character if you're a child of God. If not, you can still have these characteristics. You can practice them. It's easier to do if you're a child of God, but you can still practice them and they will still improve your relationships. It's just easier to do if you're a child of God. That's all I'm saying. So if your person has an out of whack amygdala, you can put them on a time clock if you don't just want to end the relationship because y'all have history. You can put them on a time clock because I guarantee you, I'm telling you what I know. Your relationship is not going to improve without there being a transformation here in this person or in you. It's not going to happen. All right. Last scripture I'm going to give you and then I'm getting out of y'all hair. Pursuing peace and letting go of worry. That's the amygdala all day. That's why it's overreacting, because it's worried that we're going to be harmed in some way. So this person has to now have a position of pursuing peace. I'm going to be fine. The person that I'm with loves me and is going to protect me. I'm going to be fine. And if not, God, or I'm going to see a sign, I'm going to see something before it happens that's going to allow me to make a decision to keep myself safe. You have to be able to get there in your brain. And if you're the person whose amygdala is overreacting and you're in a relationship where you don't feel like you are mentally or emotionally safe, why are you still in this relationship? Because this person is going to continue to trigger you, and it's not going to be beneficial for you, because you already have a mixed sense of where proper emotion and behavior go. You already don't have the proper connection. And so continuing to be with this person that continues to trigger your emotional stress, how is that helpful? Because you love them? All right, I'll tell you this. You get to keep whatever you're willing to fight for. And so if you're willing to hold on to this person that continues to trigger you, you get to keep them until they decide that they no longer want to be with you. If you want to continue to be the person that I'm grown and you don't want none and don't rub me the wrong way because I go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds and ... You get to continue to be that person. What do your relationships look like, though? Probably not so great or not very plentiful, right? Because I'm not going to say that you don't have a great relationship or maybe a couple great relationships. And maybe you've talked yourself into feeling like, I don't need a whole lot of friends. I don't need a whole lot of people around me because I don't trust people know how and all of this stuff. Well, that trusting thing has an amygdala root, right? You've learned somewhere that people can't be trusted because you or somebody who was gatekeeping for you dropped the ball somewhere, somehow. So now the best thing to do is not to trust people. No, the best thing to do is to go back and revisit and find out what happened so that that doesn't happen again. People are trustworthy. Not everybody is. But for you to cage yourself into being like, no, I'm gonna be right here. I'm gonna be right here. I don't trust people. I'm not gonna extend myself. For you to be in that place, it's not a healthy place. And that's not the same as I keep my circle small. That's not the same as that, right? Everybody does not deserve a seat at your table. Absolutely true. But you cannot be so hurt and so bothered by getting to know anybody new that you're not willing to extend yourself to find out if God is sending you somebody new, because he may have some things for you to do that you can't do by yourself. But you're so busy feeling like people can't be trusted and you're going to put yourself in this box and I got my few close friends and that's all I need. Okay. All right. Just saying, if you keep the door closed to keep things out, nothing can get in either. All right. Let's get our amygdalas together, guys. Again, like I said, if you want the list of the practices that I use and the scriptures that I use, just say it in the chat. Give me your email. I'll send it to you. This is the first step, though. Look over your amygdala today. Look over the people in your life that you have responsibility to and for, and see who in your life overreacts. See who in your life you haven't been sensitive enough to because you didn't understand really what was going on. Find out how you can be more of service to those people, because now you have a little bit of an understanding, right? This thing between men and women where women want to criticize men for this performance thing that they do, mainly sports. Please stop that. And men who want to be dismissive to women because they're always crying about something or always complaining about something or overreacting about something. Please stop that. We have hormonal issues that we don't do any work about. We need to work on those. I promise you, that thing right there is going to improve your relationship drastically if you get a handle on it. And if you don't, and you decide to practice some of these things that I've given you and these scriptures, know that you need more emotional challenges for you to practice them. So don't feel like, oh, well, Shay, I tried it and it didn't work. No, you need the emotional challenges so that you can practice it, to get to the point of mastery of it, right? So welcome the challenges, welcome the emotional stress, welcome the frustration, because now you have some tools that you can deploy to make yourself feel better by shrinking that amygdala and walking it back off the edge. All right? I love you guys. Love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Thank you guys so much for coming. That is the first one. With that, I think we can move on next week to our 7-step framework or system to get you from your hurt place to a place of health. Because where health thrives, happiness blooms, right? And so your relationships can be happy if you're healthy. We're going to start our 7-step series on next week. So I'll see you guys next Friday, 7 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. You guys, this journey is yours to claim. All right? Until next time, I'll holla.